My name's Kenneth Branch. I'm 54 years old. I have two children, one 23, one 19. My childhood was lonely. I started drinking at a very early age. My father left when I was 2. I don't remember my father growing up. It was just my mother. There was 6 of us in all in my family, an older brother and an older sister. There was a lot of verbal abuse in my life, which led me to be very introverted and angry. The worst day that I did drugs is a really emotional time for me. My son was born on Valentine's Day, and after he was born, I felt the need to go out and celebrate. I used that day when he was born, and I was so ashamed of what I had done. And then 2 days after that, my brother passed away. That was the hardest time and the hardest thing that I've had to go through, because while I was out there using, my brother was dying. My wife at the time was in the hospital with my baby boy. The only thing I could think about was I could not come down. I had to stay high, because if I came down, I would think about what I was doing, and I'd feel bad about what I was doing. So the only thing not to feel was to keep using. So it didn't matter what I had to sell or what I had to do to keep getting the money so that I could use. In the process of my life with the crack, doing this drug that was ending my life in so many ways, I got to the point where there was nowhere for me to go. I had gotten divorced. The drugs meant more to me than having a place to stay or having a vehicle. It was all about the high then. I got to the point where I didn't care about what people thought of me. I didn't care about my life. All I cared about was getting high. You know, during my life of addiction, I ended up in jail quite a lot. I mean, quite a lot. The longest time I ever did was 8 months, which seemed like a lifetime to me. But I had all these charges where I did these 30-day stints, and I did a lot of them. I don't know, 7, 8. I can't really remember the number. I had to go back and... But one thing I know about being locked up and being in jail is it's like your life is on hold. Everything is different. When you're in jail, when you're in there, you're there, you're in there. You have to do your time in the jail. You can't do your time on the streets, because if you worry about what's going outside, 24 hours is going to seem like 24 days. So you have to stay inside when you're doing time. And that was the one thing that I learned how to do. I did jail well. I learned how to be in jail. I learned how to be locked up. I know that sounds bad, but I guess I learned how to be locked up. I learned how to deal with the men in jail. I learned how to stay out of trouble. I learned how to take the little money that I got on the books and make it last. It was, I don't want to go back. I don't want to ever have to have my freedom taken from me. But while I was in there, I realized that I'm in here now. So just make it the best of it. And I did. I saw so many playoff games behind bars, Super Bowls behind bars. And when I was a little boy, if you'd have asked me what I wanted to be, I never told you I wanted to be a jailbird, but that's what I was. One thing about when I was in jail, I guess I thought that, man, you know, my life was kind of over with. You know, you get this thing behind you, got a felony, because I did have a felony. I had a record. And you go out and you look for a job, and when they ask the question, have you ever been in prison? Have you ever been convicted of a felony? You want to lie. The first instinct is to lie and say no. But then you don't lie. You put down yes, and you wonder if that's why you didn't get the job. So it's hard. I spent a year homeless in Kentucky, just out on the streets, never contacted anybody in my family, just sleeping in cars, bridges, wherever I could lay my head. if I laid my head, because most of the time I walked around all night, just all night, all day, hustling, trying to get another hit. I made my way to a shelter, Peachtree and Pine. And it was from that point that I didn't use anymore. It was from that point that I decided that I had been given another chance, and my life was looking up, even though it was at the shelter. And I'm in this shelter, it's got a whole bunch of men there, 500 so men. But I just felt like I had a different chance. I had a different life. I was seeing things a lot differently. From that point, I got sick. I got pneumonia. Had to go into the hospital for a few days. And it was at that time I decided to call my mother, because I hadn't talked to her in a few months. And she asked, did I want to move with her to Gainesville? And I wasn't sure that I wanted to do it. But when I got out of the hospital and I got back to the shelter, the smell in the shelter was just horrifying. It was horrific. And it was at that point I was like, wait a minute. I have just been offered a home. I didn't want to stay with my mother because I didn't want to put my life on anybody else. That was one of the main reasons I was homeless, because I just refused to put my life on anybody else in my family. And so I accepted her invitation. And from that point, there were so many things that transpired in my life. When I got there, I stopped listening to my own mind. I stopped listening to what I used to tell myself. Because every time I listened to my own self and my mind, I would do the wrong things. So from that point on, I felt like, listen to something else. Not my own mind, because it was telling me lies. And I didn't want to hear them lies anymore. I wanted to try my own business. I had once before had a little hustle business, but now I wanted to try it on a different level. Things are happening for me very quickly. Work is coming to me surprisingly. I just purchased me a new truck, and that is just amazing for me. I'm so happy when I get in my truck, man, and I crank it up and I hear that engine roar. And I'd see these guys out in these trucks moving along and doing their thing, and I thought, wow, one day that'll happen for me. And I have no idea where God is gonna take me later in life. I don't know. All I know is I'm gonna sit back and enjoy the ride. The hardest thing about me when I first started staying clean and first started was how people viewed me. That was hard for me, because I wanted to, if I saw a man with his family and he had some things, I would try to appear that way. But I knew that I wasn't that way. So it was very difficult to get past my past, thinking that everybody that I ran into, they knew what I did, knew where I was from, and they didn't. But my mind would tell me that. So it would make it hard for me. And in the past, those were times when I would go back out and I would use, because it was getting too hard. Changing your life, and when I realized that when I was changing my life, it was not as easy as it seemed. It seemed like it'll be easy, but it's not, because I had to change more than my life. Even though I have to change my people, places, and things, I had to change some things within inside of myself. I had to look inside of myself and see what I didn't like about me, and what I can do to make my life different. And how bad that I want my life to be different. One bit of advice that I can give to them: listen. Listen to people that care about you, and listen to yourself. Really and truly listen to yourself. Listen to who you are. Because I thought I knew myself. But it wasn't until I found myself that I was able to change myself. Georgia Calls, this program, it is so important. It's a place where a guy can get out, get a decent job, learn about all entrepreneurship, learn about himself. It's a great program. It's a program that will help men change their lives in a mighty way and then be able to turn around and help somebody else. I think the program itself will steer a person into new things, in a new area of life, if it's given a chance. So we have to give it a chance. You have to give yourself a chance. And you have to realize that you can do anything you put your mind to. Even on the hard times when it comes, you don't want to get up in the morning, you don't want to go and do it, it can be done. And in Georgia Calls, there are people that are putting their lives into this to help others. And with that respect, it will really change some lives for people.